Welcome to Overcome Yourself, the podcast, where we rewrite stories, shift mindsets, and make dreams come true. I'm your host, Nicole. Let's get into today's episode. Hello there, and welcome back to the next episode of Overcome Yourself, the podcast. As you know, my name is Nicole, and I'm so excited to be here today with Dr. Sue. And now, Dr. Sue worked as a doctor, but she semi-retired, just set everything back, and she was like, let's do this the right way. And you started working with women. You help women through, I don't know, you know what, I'm gonna stop butchering it. I'm gonna go ahead and let you take it away, Sue. So Dr. Sue, please take it
Okay.
away. Let us know
Um,
a little bit about who you are and who you help.
thank you, Nicole. Well, thank you for having me. Yes, well, let me just start with who I am. I'm Dr. Sue. I am McCreadie. I am a woman in my midlife. So I'm 53 at the time of this recording, and I do help women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. My very first entrepreneurial journey, though, is as a pediatric physician. So I am a medical doctor and do have a pediatric practice that I specialize in helping kids heal naturally through nutrition. And through that practice, actually, the mothers were like, how can you help me, Dr. Sue? What can you do for me? Right. And so I really started off a journey of figuring out how I can serve them in a way that feels good for me, feels good for them, and is for the greater good. And that took some time, turns out about 15 years. And after several different, I probably did 4 different entrepreneurial journeys in terms of helping women and their children. I actually just kind of gave up, to be honest. I just put it down and said, you know what, God, I'm just not really sure how to do this gig. So I'm just going to finish out the pediatric gig. And yeah, I mean, that's still a great service in the world. And within a few weeks, maybe a few months, another breadcrumb came in through my email, and I just kind of followed it, like followed my heart, followed like, this is interesting. Then next thing you know, I'm in, a 3-day workshop that turns into a year-long mentoring program. And I had been into personal development my entire life since my teens, really. And, majored in psychology, always been loved and fascinated by human behavior, thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Um, until I saw what that was in medicine. Decided I do love children. That is my big heart. I love children. And so now I feel like I'm like the practical psychologist, right? So really using all the tools that I've learned all along the way and helping women. What do I help them with? Basically through this transition of midlife, 40s, 50s, and 60s, where I think of it, Nicole, like a second adolescence. Like, I don't know how your adolescent felt, but mine felt like super stretchy and
Yeah.
uncomfy. Like, I didn't always feel comfy in my body because of all the hormonal changes, right? That translated into some interesting emotional roller coasters at times, right? My identity, in adolescence, you're figuring out your identity, like, who am I? What am I to do this world? You're often navigating relationships, maybe intimate relationships for the first time. So there's a lot of similarities with midlife where relationships are changing, even with your kids. They're grown, they're young adults. Relationships can be changing in terms of your intimate relationship. Maybe one's ending, another's beginning. Maybe finally you're deciding to have a conscious uncoupling after your kids leave. Like all these changes, identity is a big one. Like, used to be this and now you're not anymore that. Maybe you're retired and you're like, who am I? Or who am I if I'm not a mom with kids in my house? So a lot of identity, relationship, hormonal, like physiological feelings happening.
Yes, absolutely. I talk about that in my book. I'm like, if your identity is tied to one thing that you're doing, what
Mm,
happens when that thing ends? Because things come in season. So if you're like the mom and then your kids are not in school anymore, and so you don't get to be the classroom mom, you're like, what happened? Yeah, and
mm,
so it's so important to, I think, even think about these transitions before we get to them, right? And some of these transitions we don't have time to prepare for. Like if someone passes away or we get fired from a job, like there's so many things that can happen. But one of the things that stood out to me that you said, when we were setting up our interview, where you talked
mm-hmm.
about the healing of the emotions, the emotional wounds,
Mm-hmm.
and that transformation can't happen without that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I feel like those two things are really tied together.
Mm-hmm. So emotional healing, I feel like when you, my understanding and what my experience is that, and I've even heard therapists and psychologists say this, is that a lot of the current life problems are actually from unresolved childhood conflicts or, as we say, traumas, right? And traumas are basically less about what happened and more about the state of your nervous system when it happened. So something that could be a big trauma to someone could be a little trauma to another person. Basically, a lot of our current life behaviors and habits, and therefore results, are driven by this subconscious thoughts and feelings and rules and beliefs that we picked up in order to survive and be loved in childhood. And some things really worked for us, right? But it's kind of like trying to use an old, outdated, phone. Like, remember, you know, when phones, like the first mobile phones were like these big, like suitcases, it'd be like trying to use that right now instead of, our technology today. And so we're using these outdated rules and belief systems and trying to function in today's world. And the thing is we don't even know that we're using that rule book, if you make sense. So it's
Mhm.
always to me about getting underneath the surface of what you're consciously thinking or even feeling in the moment and getting underneath the surface of what is that driven from, right? So sometimes, like how you do emotional healing, you can take it all at the conscious level. Like if someone's feeling, and I love playing this game, like I can even play it with you, Nicole, right now. Like think of a time where, you felt joy or peace or happiness or any of those feelings that we love feeling, right? And when I'm in a session, like I'll have you close your eyes and have music on and do it. But you can even like, can you take yourself back to that moment in time of a time where you felt just overwhelming joy, overwhelming happiness? You don't have to share what that moment is, but like, are you there? Can you think of that moment in
Yeah.
time? Yeah. And in that moment in time, like, what were you doing with your body? Were you jumping up and down? Were you like, wow? Were you hugging someone? Were you at peace and like resting still? Like, what were you doing with your body?
A moment that I go back to a lot is like holding my grandpa's hand when we
Hmm.
were like in a theme park or something, but just the safety of his hand and
Oh,
having him guide me, you know?
I love that. Okay, beautiful. And in that moment, can you think about like, and maybe you were so young, but you can think about like, do you think in that moment where you focus on what you do have or what you don't have?
Well, you do have
Yeah. And where you focus on what, maybe in that moment, what's going right or what's going wrong?
what's going right
Yeah. And are you thinking about the past or worried about the future, or are you in the present moment?
in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. And so often during these times, you can also think about like what you might have been saying to yourself, like, wow, I love grandpa, or like, this feels so good. Like you're often saying things, the language that you're using at the time is life is great. This is amazing. I feel good, right? All the great things that we love to hear. And the combination of like what you're focused on, what the meaning, like the language that you're saying to yourself, and what you're doing with your body shoots out an emotion, right? So you can think about that. Like now we could all go to a time where life didn't feel so great. Like I can think of that when, well, there's many times I could go back to, but probably one of the ones that I share a lot is just when I was suffering from multiple miscarriages and I was suffering. Like that was the emotion. It was like emotional suffering because what was I focused on? What I don't have, what I can't control, what's not going right. And I was worried about the future, right? Like, am I going to get this baby that I want, right? And the meaning I was creating was like, who am I if I'm not a mom? This sucks. Like, why is God doing this to me? And my body would always be like in one of those kind of depressed, like hunched over, head down, like a very depressed state. And that shout out depression, sadness, grief, overwhelm. Not that any emotion there's nothing wrong with any emotion. To me, there's just like a message behind it. Like, what's the
Mhm.
message? And so I always like to share that kind of exercise because we create our emotions. Like sometimes when we're emotional, we think it's just happening to us, right? But if you just take a pause, and I do this all the time, I'll be like, Sue, are you focused on what you can control or what you can't control? Like I'll catch it every time. Am I focused on what's going right or wrong? Am I focused on what I already have or what's missing? And immediately you can start, shifting after you have a good chuckle at catching yourself again, like I do. It's like, okay, how can I shift this? And one of the fastest ways to shift your emotion is through your physiology, through your body, right? And so you think about Nicole, like as a kid, skipping down the street, jumping up and down. These emotions, like I don't know, you probably could, but generally when I start skipping, I start laughing, especially because at 53, my skip is not so gracious anymore. But I do it, I do these funny, like physiological things. One of the things I do is like throw up my arms and be like, what's great about this? Right? Because you want to, or I often say, like, I'm sculpting my soul. So it just is like shifting what I'm focusing on, the meaning I'm creating, my physiology. So I create an emotion that does feel good, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, yeah, it really does. And I work with a movement specialist, and so one of the things that
Oh,
she's taught me is like even just your hand placements. So like if you start off with your hands open and then you put your hands down, you're sitting up straight. But if you start with your hands like this and you put your arms down, your natural inclination is to go down. So exactly what you're talking about with
oh.
the physiology, with your hands palms up and you're naturally up straighter. And so like little shifts like that in your body can help
Mm-hmm.
you create different, different things inside of your body, right? Like one of the things I talk about is happiness being it's a chemical reaction that happens in your brain. Something happens and you get a chemical and you're like, "Oh, I'm happy." And so one of the things that I had to do is have a talk with myself and I was like, "Nicole, it is physically, mathematically impossible to be happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you can live in joy. You can live in a joyful perspective. And it ties into what you're talking about because that's related to your body. I've been in the miscarriage. The beginning of my book, the like I didn't think that, I'd ever share that, but now the beginning of my book is the story of the day that that happened and where I was in my head. I remember looking out a window and I remember exactly what you're talking about. Your posture is and you're
Mm-hmm.
sad. And so making little changes just like that, like shifting your palms up and then even to drive when you're driving, shifting up and then like that, because my back really used to hurt. And she helped me with that, right? And then
That's
bringing it back
beautiful.
to bringing yourself to the present, to pointing out what's great in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
What I learned to do was gratitude, practicing
Mm-hmm.
gratitude. How can I be grateful for anything at all? And I learned that in the miscarriage because I was like, I just do I even want to live was the question, right? Like to put it in a nice way. Like, do I
Mm-hmm.
even want to keep going? And I made a deal with myself and I said, if you're gonna live, you're going to do it joyfully. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the process. Like, I don't want to drag myself through that. I don't want, 80 more years of just dragging myself. Oh, this sucks. I didn't want that. No. And so these tiny little shifts, exactly what you're talking about. By the way, I also had a vitamin deficiency that led to a lot of depression and anxiety symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting that, since you're a doctor, then you could
Yeah,
advocate, right?
I can
Get
definitely
that
advocate.
stuff. Yes, because it's incredible. Like I take the vitamin and within a week, my whole brain is different. Like I don't feel like my thoughts are attacking me anymore. I realized the last time it happened to me, I'm like, oh my God, it's like a virus because it's like your brain and the thoughts are just coming at you and you can't think anything else. And I was like, oh my God, it's like a mental virus. And I took my vitamin and poof, those thoughts were able to calm down, like they weren't attacking me anymore. And so you can focus on gratitude, you can focus on joy, you can focus on actually enjoying the moments of happiness. Because if you're in
Hmm.
the future, if you're in the past, how are you going to enjoy the right now?
Hmm.
You're not you're not there, you're not present. So the happiness isn't happening because you're somewhere else, right?
Somewhere
And
else. Yep.
it's very complex and it sounds very woo woo. But it all comes back together and it's just very scientific, very evidence based. Like we know that gratitude. Talk to me about gratitude. You're a doctor. Like talk to me about
Mm.
the importance of because I was doing research and I found that gratitude, people that practice gratitude experience less pain, they heal
Oh
faster.
my gosh. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of science behind it,
Yes.
um, and really it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if you're kind of just go back to the example of like based on the focus and what you're saying to yourself, like when we're in these disempowering emotions like frustration, overwhelm, sadness, grief, we're kind of like shit stacking rather than gratitude. We're just like piling crap on
Yeah.
top of crap on top of crap on top of crap. And then we just feel crappy. Like it's not
Mhm.
rocket science, you know? But when you focus on what's working, what's already present, what's already here, what you already have, right? Then it's like you're stacking, like it almost feels like you're stacking love on top of love on top of love on top of love. And naturally, we're a loving state. Like that is our natural frequency or way of being is loving. And that's why when we're not in those states, it feels so crappy. We try to get back as fast as possible to a loving state because that is our natural loving state. And so to me, like gratitude is just a way to like expand your loving state, right? And so again, to me, one of the fastest ways to get back to gratitude is using my physiology. So like doing breath, I do breath work, meditation, get up and go for a walk, focus on the little bunnies that I pass, like anything to sort of shift my focus. I love little bunnies. I like, hi. Like I start talking to them like little babies, you know?
They're adorable.
Adorable. And you just start having a conversation. It really like shifts your focus, right? Gives you space and grace. And physiology is a great way to do that. Sometimes we just get so stuck in our head that moving your body and movement, either breath or anything to get your body moving, really allows that space and grace to start kind of like loosening it up so you can shift.
Mhm. I mean, we're energy, right? Like everything that
Mhm.
happens between our brain and everything. And so if we're all stuck, that energy can't flow, right? And so it just makes
Mm.
sense that moving around, that stretching, that doing like simple changes, right? Like the stacking. I also one of my clients does laughter yoga. And so she
Oh my
practices
gosh,
just
it's so
laughing, right?
funny.
And just
Yeah.
out of like the deep darkness of your soul, like that diaphragm, like that deep laugh. And she just practices doing that like out of nowhere, right? So even little things like that, because it really is all about our perspective. Like I shared with you that my mom died when I was 1.5, so I had to learn this lesson when I was very young. But what
Mhm.
do I have? Because that's the only thing I can
Mhm.
focus on. And then that's what the gratitude comes back to. That's what making sure you're in your body. Because people who are neurodivergent, an experience that I've shared with people, and they're like, I get it, is feeling like you're here, but like your life is somewhere over there, and you don't, and it doesn't make sense. Like it's not, and you're like, I don't know what it is. And so bringing those two sides together, making sure that you're here, you're in the present, you're not in the
Mhm.
past, you're not in the future, you're here. So moving your body, practicing gratitude, focusing on where I am right now, like all of those things are so important. And then
The other
as
thing I was
yes,
the
yes,
other thing
yes.
I would add to that, Nicole, is like talking about emotional healing, which is how we started. Like emotions
Mhm.
are like emotion is energy in motion. So the whole
Love it.
point of emotion is to move through the emotion. And that's where a lot of us, didn't do that. We just like stuff it down. All of us have been through that point where we're like, "Huh, I've got to cry." And then you're just like, oh no, I can't do that right now. Like it's so a lot of emotional healing is also just taking the space and grace to actually
Mhm.
feel the emotion. And a lot of like I talk to women and they're like, that doesn't sound very great. I'm like, it's only not great if you make it wrong, right? Like if you actually look at the benefit of it. And the thing is that it usually only lasts like 90 seconds. Like if you ever tried to like cry your eyes out, like there's an end. Like
Yeah.
even if it's like about and then like the next day you like cry some more, it's like there is an end to it. Like there is a bottom. And so just allowing yourself to get to the bottom so you could like express it all and also ask like what is the message? I always love asking that too. Like what's the message that, this frustration is trying to bring me right now? Just ask the question, get curious. Is it asking you to slow down? Is it asking you to lower your expectations? Or like when we get angry, is it asking you like what rule just got crossed, right? Like what are you pissed off about? Like did someone break a rule? What is that rule? By the way, did you let them know that you had that rule or did you just assume they knew your rule? Did you even know you had that rule? Right? Like it allows you
Yes.
to get really curious with the emotion and learn its message so that moving forward, you can change your perspective and then like change your procedure, right? Do something different next time.
And if you do find that you cry every single day or more days than you don't, then you have to be honest with your doctor. And that's coming from me because that's what I had to do. And I had to say, yo, literally every day I'm crying and I don't know why. But every doctor's appointment I gone to, I hadn't said that. And then finally I was
Mm,
honest and I was like, this is going on. And immediately they're like, blood work. And that's exactly what it was. Like she knew immediately as soon as I told her. And so I encourage you, if you cry and cry and cry and then you feel like there is no bottom, you might need to talk to your doctor and you can get help because it's not your fault. And you might not need like, crazy levels of all kinds of medication. It could be something as simple as a vitamin that could really change your life. So I just want to encourage people, talk to your doctor, be honest, and get the help that you need, right? um,
beautiful.
yes, I love it. So you mentioned that you had a gift for the audience. So can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, it is a personality quiz. I mean, you can take it any time of life. It's targeted for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, but men have taken my quiz. Um, and the point is that really a lot of personal and self-development, it starts with you. It starts with understanding your gifts, your unique gifts. And I think a lot of us, we just neglect our gifts. Like we just think
Mhm.
everybody has that gift, but in reality, they don't necessarily. And so through learning your gifts and also your unique challenges that can come with the gift, then that's really where you can, move forward. So like I'll just share like the personality gift that I fit into. Like there's 4 personality types. I'm an inspirational type. And so I love being the positive force. I love the silver lining and everything, right? I love everything. Shiny objects are really exciting to me. The downfall is if I follow everyone, right, then I get scattered and I'm not moving forward. So each personality, there's the visionary, the inspirational, the detail, and the giver mama. They have their beautiful gifts and also their opportunities for growth, right? So for me, it's really about focus, like focus, so you can stay in flow and move forward. So yeah, I encourage people to start there. It's super fun. It's only 11 questions, take you like less than 2 minutes. And yeah, you learn what your personality type and how to move forward.
That is amazing. I definitely would like to take that. It sounds like I might be the same personality type as you.
Yes.
So I gotta go see a visionary or the inspirational because I have been told you're too positive, Nicole. Like everything you turn it to for good. And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't mean to be annoying about it. Like, I don't believe in toxic positivity, but
Hmm.
when you practice gratitude, when you learn to really focus and be like, what can I be grateful? What's the tiniest little thing? Even if it's just the oxygen particles that are in the perfect combination so that we can breathe, even if it's just that, if that's the only thing, a ray of sunshine, a blade of grass, whatever it is, but getting it down to the focus. So I love that so much. Now, how can we stay in touch with you?
Yes, beautiful. So best way to reach me is through my website, drsuemccreadie.com, where you can also take the quiz.
Yes. And all of those links are going to be available down in the show notes and social media. How do we follow you on social media?
Yes, the same. All of them are like / Dr. Sue McCreadie. So I'm
Perfect.
Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Yeah.
Yay. Awesome. All right. So like I said, all of the links are going to be available down in the show notes. Now, Dr. Sue, when we like to leave off on the episodes with a final big tip, like what is the best tip,
Mm,
like the advice that you give your clients that you're like, this was worth $100,000 that I paid you.
yes, I would say it's asking a better question. And the question is, what would love do? So
Mm,
I've often been told from my clients and my kids that I go back to this question time and time again, because when you're going through a challenging situation, you're not sure how to navigate it. One of the best things you can do is just ask a better question and ask, like, what would love do? Because, like I said, our natural loving state, like our natural way of being is loving. And so by asking that question, you're activating that part of you that's loving. And love always knows the way, right? Love always knows what to say and what not to say. Sometimes when you ask what love would do, is love would say, go have some fun. Sometimes love would say, go have a rest. Sometimes love would say, set a boundary. That's not okay, right? So love could say a lot of different things, but you get to ask first what love would do in this moment, and then you'll get your answer.
I love that so much. And that's in my book as well. Like, so I love it. 'Cause, I feel like I'm hitting the nail on the head, but if you want better answers, you got to ask better questions.
Hmm.
And so I think that is a great question to start off with. What would love to? I love it. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
so
you, Nicole.
amazing. No, thank you. This has been wonderful. Yes, amazing. So we'll catch you guys next week on the next episode of Overcome Yourself, the podcast. Bye. Thanks again. Thanks again for tuning in to Overcome Yourself, the podcast. Stay bold, stay grateful, and keep becoming your best you. For more information and resources from me, Nicole, head over to nicoletexberry.com/resources. See you next time.